Every day, somewhere in the world, someone wakes up already exhausted. Not because the day has begun, but because life has been heavy for too long. Some people are trying with all their strength and still failing. Some are watching others move ahead while they remain stuck in the same place. Some are carrying pressure from family, money problems, loneliness, heartbreak, or the pain of feeling invisible. And after failing again and again, a dangerous thought slowly enters the mind. Maybe I am not strong enough, but life does not always test the strongest people. Sometimes it tests the tired ones, and today's story is about a camel who taught an entire desert what true strength really means. Far away beyond endless dunes and burning sands, there lived a young camel named Zade. Zade was different from the others. He was smaller, his legs were thinner, his body was weaker, and while the other camels walked proudly through the desert carrying heavy loads, Zade struggled just to keep up. The older camels were respected by everyone. Traders trusted them, travelers praised them. People called them strong, but whenever they looked at Zade, they laughed. That little camel will never survive the desert. He is too weak. He was born different. Zade heard those words almost every day. Still, every morning before sunrise, he quietly stood up and followed the others. He watched how they walked through storms without fear. He watched how they carried impossible weight across endless heat. And every single day, he tried to become like them. But every single day, he failed. Sometimes he stumbled while carrying even small bags. Sometimes his legs shook under the hot sun. Sometimes exhaustion forced him to stop, while the others continued moving ahead. And every failure felt heavier than the last. One evening, after falling once again in front of everyone, Zade slowly walked away from the group. The sky glowed orange as the sun disappeared behind the dunes. The desert wind moved softly through the silence. Zade sat alone beside a large rock, lowering his head in shame. After some time, an old camel approached him slowly. His name was Karim. Karim was the oldest camel in the desert. His body carried scars from storms, journeys, and years of survival. He sat quietly beside Zade for a moment before speaking. "Why are you hiding here?" Zade stared at the sand. "I am tired," he whispered. "Tired of walking?" Karim asked gently. Zade shook his head slowly. "No, tired of failing." For a few seconds, the old camel said nothing. Then he asked quietly, "Do you know why the desert respects camels?" Zade looked confused and shook his head. "It is not because they are fast," Karim said. "It is because they keep moving. Even when the desert wants them to stop." Zade listened silently. "The desert burns your feet," Karim continued. "The storms blind your eyes. The heat steals your strength. But a camel survives because it learns one thing." Zade looked up. "What thing?" Karim's eyes rested calmly on the horizon. "To keep walking." That night, Zade could not sleep. Those three words echoed inside his mind over and over again. Keep walking. The next morning before sunrise, Zade stood up earlier than everyone else. And this time, he trained alone. When the others rested, he kept walking. When they laughed at him, he stayed silent. When he fell, he stood up again. Days became weeks, weeks became months. But the truth was painful. Even after all that effort, Zade was still weaker than the others. And slowly, doubt returned. Maybe they were right. Maybe he truly was not enough. Then one afternoon, a group of traders arrived at the desert village. They needed camels to cross one of the most dangerous routes in the desert. Naturally, the strongest camels were chosen first. As always, nobody chose Zade. He stood quietly at the back, trying not to show his disappointment, while the caravan prepared to leave. But suddenly, one trader pointed toward him. "That small camel," he said. "Bring him too." The others looked surprised. "He's weak," another trader warned. But the man shrugged. "We need every camel we can get." For the first time in his life, Zade was chosen. his heart filled with both excitement and fear. This was his first real journey. The caravan began moving across the endless desert. At first, everything seemed peaceful. But after 2 days, the sky changed. Dark clouds swallowed the sunlight. Strong winds rose violently across the dunes. A desert storm was coming. The older camels became nervous. The wind howled louder and louder until the air filled with sand like giant crashing waves. People could barely see. The caravan lost its direction. Some camels panicked. Others stopped moving completely. The traders shouted in fear as the storm grew worse. Hour after hour, the desert showed no mercy, and slowly, even the strongest camels began collapsing from exhaustion. But then something unexpected happened. Zade kept moving, slowly, carefully, one step at a time. The storm pushed against him, invisible wall. Sand burned his eyes. His legs trembled violently. But inside his mind, he heard Kareem's voice again. Keep walking, not because you are strong, because you refuse to stop. And so Zade continued, step by step, breath by breath. Then suddenly, through the storm, he noticed something dark in the distance. Rocks, shelter. Zade let out a loud call. The traders looked toward him. The camels followed him. And slowly, the entire caravan reached safety behind the rocks. Everyone collapsed from exhaustion. The storm raged through the night, but they survived. The next morning, silence filled the desert. One trader stared at Zade in disbelief. This little camel saved us. For the first time in his life, nobody laughed at him. But the journey was not over. On the way back home, another disaster struck. The caravan's water supplies became dangerously low. Panic spread quickly. Without enough water, survival was impossible. The traders decided to throw away extra bags to make the journey easier. Every camel carried less weight. Every camel, except Zade. Without anyone asking him, Zade slowly walked toward the remaining bags and knelt down quietly. The traders looked shocked. He's already exhausted, one man said. But Zade remained still, ready. So they placed the extra weight onto him. The journey became unbearable. The sun burned like fire above them. Every step felt heavier than the last. Even the strongest camels struggled to continue. At one point, Zade's knees finally touched the sand. The weight felt impossible. A voice inside him whispered, "Stop, rest, you cannot do this anymore." But then he looked ahead. He saw the exhausted faces of the people beside him. He saw the camels still fighting to continue. And suddenly, something changed inside him. For the first time, he understood what real strength truly was. Strength is not living without pain. Strength is carrying pain and still moving forward. Slowly, painfully, Zade stood back up, and step by step, he continued walking. Hours later, the caravan finally reached the village safely. The people celebrated with tears of relief and joy. Children ran toward the camels happily. And in the middle of everyone stood Zade, the camel everyone once called weak. That evening, Kareem walked slowly toward him once again. This time, Zade smiled. "You were right," he said softly. Kareem nodded. "The desert does not care who starts strong," he replied. "It only remembers who refuses to quit." Years later, travelers crossing the desert still spoke about the small camel named Zade. Not because he was the fastest, not because he was born powerful, but because when life became difficult, he kept walking. And maybe that is the lesson many of us need today. You do not need to become perfect overnight. You do not need to move faster than everyone else. Life is not always testing how quickly you succeed. Sometimes life is simply testing whether you will stop or continue. So if you are tired, rest if you must. Cry if you need to. Slow down for a moment. But do not quit. Because one day, the struggle you hate today, they become the exact reason someone admires your strength tomorrow. And if this story touched your heart, subscribe to the Tales by Hasiba for more emotional stories, motivational journeys, and life lessons that help you grow stronger, one story at a time.